Hey there, welcome to the Scaling Deep podcast. I'm Lisa Princik, your host. I'm a membership coach and business strategist, and I'm having a lot of fun these days talking about the foundations for successful memberships because I think that's a really important topic. We need to think about on one end of things like optimizing your funnels and your sales and nailing that. But I also think that there are a lot of people who have membership ideas or even existing memberships without these foundations nailed. And I want to also encourage you, if you haven't listened to last week's, what's the difference between a membership and a subscription? Because that's a really valuable context setting podcast that's going to help you understand what really are you building and what are the consequences and the considerations for each type. And they are a little bit different. And that's how we develop containers of what's in them, what's out of them, how simple and easy do they need to be, and how fancy and how many bells and whistles do they need. And that's going to really influence your ability to make a profit on it, right? Is knowing kind of which camp that you are in for your idea. And building upon that, I want to also discuss this idea of how to nail your value proposition for your membership, because it's actually the thing that I find most people are the most troubled with when it comes to their program. They have this idea that their membership is for a whole bunch of people in a whole bunch of different stages and different situations. And because they worked with so many different clients or they worked with themselves, they end up coming to me with this idea of, oh, I'm going to do tiers. So that's the first problem. Like it'll be like, oh, I want this person at this phase, this person at this phase. And what they'll do is like, oh, you must be a beginner, therefore come into the tier one of the membership and it'll be low cost because of course you're not going to want to have like spend a lot of money on something that you're not advanced on yet. And then we'll have this more comprehensive level for the person who is more advanced in the subject. And it's really interesting because what that's assuming is that people at a basic level of knowledge in something are less serious about getting an outcome. And that's simply not true. So while it might be easy to think that a beginner wants to spend less on something, it's not necessarily true. There are people who are further along in things that have bigger teams or more experience and other support who don't want to spend a lot on something. And then the other problem with that, regardless of just making an assumption about who your ideal member is and what they actually want and what they want to spend, is you're also really confusing people because you're basically trying to separate your membership into two offers because tier one and tier two are two offers. So tier one and tier two may look like tiers, but what it really is one might be a micro membership and one might be more of a normal kind of sized cost membership that is, say, at a low to medium ticket amount where you might have calls or something. And then the first one doesn't. So the first one might be actually a subscription, which is a different program. The second tier might actually just be a membership. Or in a different case altogether, with a different type of price point example, your tier one might actually just be your membership. And then your tier two might be your mastermind. And those are actually two different programs. And they solve different problems for different people with different pain points. And then what you end up having is two different value propositions that you're trying to squeeze onto the same sales page. And you know how that works out. You can't have a page with different calls to action, copy that's going to resonate with people who are experiencing different things completely. It's just likely not going to work. And I'm going to give you some history to why I think people do this. Okay. So, yeah, it might have worked a little bit more in the past when memberships were new and people were just eager to get access to things in a different way. There was an era before the pandemic where high ticket was all the rage and everybody was charging high ticket everything. And it was incredible how many people offered fairly, I don't know what the word is, the opposite of robust, maybe like thin or weak high ticket programs where they would cost $10,000 for, say, 3 months, which would be fine if it included hands-on support or implementation support or some like a ton of extra value. But these were actually not that high ticket in their delivery. They were not premium. They did not hold your hand and they did not do stuff for you. And that for some reason was acceptable because people had so much profit in their business that they were willing to spend that. There was profit in the economy and people are willing to spend that if it's, say, a B2C thing. So what we were seeing was that things were getting fat, right? And then we all know what happens when the economy gets a little bit tighter. It doesn't mean it has to tank. It just means, for example, say Facebook ads and Instagram ads and all those things that were pretty profitable. Like think about the return on ad spend that would have been 5 times. So you put in $1, you get out 5. Well, now it's a little bit more like 1.5 to 2 in a lot of cases. And so therefore there isn't as much profit in the business. Or in the case of B2B, people are more conscious and of what they'll spend. They won't buy a high ticket program that doesn't look like it's going to make a dramatic change or give them value in a different way because they can get the strategic support they need or the hands-on, like you will get over this thing because we will hold your hand until you get to where you need to get to, right? So this is where that was all the rage. And then people got a little bit more discretionary. So then memberships were like, oh, this is fun. I can go in and instead of paying $5,000 per month, I can pay 500, or instead of paying 500, I can pay 50 to get access to something. And so tiers really made some sense at the time because it was a new way to buy. It was a new way to spread out the investment in learning the thing. And it might have been a little easier to sell, or people were selling their membership with tiers to an audience of people who were very hot, like they were really warm. When you offer something for the first time to a warm list, they don't need to spend as much time getting their head around it. They just trust, oh, this person says I'm going to get all these tools and all these things. I'm going to jump in. Which one should I buy? Oh, I really feel confident, or I really feel less confident. And they might have been able to sell tier 1 or tier 2. And that was a little bit how it was. Or there was an interest, for example, and it was the first membership in an interest group. And jumping into something that was based on a real passion would have been like novel and fun. But now it's not. Now selling is trickier. Now selling is more specific. We are more and more inundated with more offers, and therefore we just need to be crystal clear on what we're selling. And it can't be confusing in any way, shape, or form. And you know how you'll know that? If you can launch twice, even twice, okay, that's not statistically sound, but it's good enough for me. Like I track my numbers. And if I see that I'm launching something and a couple months later, I'm launching it again and I'm getting a similar conversion rate on things, then that to me is enough to say that there's consistency. Then I know that what I'm selling is clear. If you are converting at a level that is decent, you're not confusing things, that people are getting what you're offering and it's coming across enough in what you're selling that it's going to help them and people feel confident buying it. And if you can do that twice in a row over, I don't know, even a year or 6 months or even a few months, then you probably are hitting the mark. And so therefore, you're probably having good copy that really speaks to people. And so when you've got different tiers for people at different phases, the challenge is that your copy is going to get a little fuzzy. It's really going to be fuzzy. You're going to end up talking about a different level of transformation that they can get with a different audience. So a beginner versus someone who is advanced, that's tricky, right? So you want to make sure that your membership is really geared for an ideal person. Even if you have both, it's okay. I have people with memberships and people brand new to memberships in my programs. And they do grapple with the same things, but I still have a better idea of who I'm speaking to And that works to attract someone who can see the value of what I offer based on where their pain points might be. That's your value proposition. Getting super clear on who that person is and what you're going to do for them is going to make a big difference. And sometimes it's really hard to tell. So I do this in my VIP coaching sessions with people. I have a package that helps people work through their value proposition for their membership specifically, even after they've already started it. Sometimes it's not clear. And I walk them through exercises that help them figure that out. And one of the things that we can also do in that process is start writing copy. So if you were wanting to do this on your own and working with someone doesn't make sense yet, then start writing out your copy. And your copy is going to provide some clarity about what the big transformation is and who it's for. Because if you're struggling to write the copy and it's sounding really vague and really uninteresting, it's probably because you are trying to talk about so many types of things and so many types of situations that you can't get very specific. And you also can't weave the argument for buying in a connected way throughout your page, because you're bringing out, well, one situation here in one part of the page, and then you're kind of talking it to a different kind of person in a different kind of situation somewhere else. Those paragraphs won't flow. Like those sections won't be talking to the same person who you're naturally moving towards looking at your offer and really considering it. It'll be bouncing around and it won't make sense. So I just recently started writing a sales page for a client who has a huge following in a very niched, very trending industry. And he's really good at what he does. He's built up a really big following. But he launched a membership last year and didn't even really have a strong idea on what the value proposition was. And because he was, has a huge following and has a popular niche, he actually ended up doing fairly well, but now needs to kind of go all in on this membership program, update the content and stuff inside. And we worked on that in our VIP session. But in the writing through his copy on his sales page, because he's got a million things going on and didn't have time for it. So I was like, don't worry, I can do that for you. I ended up discovering the value proposition even in more depth and who specifically it is for and what it matters to them. And I don't think that came out until I went through it and started going through some of the content inside the membership, what they'll get out of it, and why they might not be further along in the thing that they want to be good at in the first place. And that brought out the true transformation and the true value of joining this membership. And again, it strengthened and got crystal clear to me when I wrote the copy. And that's where I'll say that if you really are struggling with what the value proposition is of your membership, but you have enough of an idea of what you want to do with your people, what your content is going to be inside, then start writing the copy for that sales page and it's going to come out. And then if you get really stuck, come to me and I will help you figure that out, because we can't always see it when we're too far into it, because we are so close to it and we're so close to working with so many clients that we can't sum them up together. Like this audience is slightly different than that audience. I mean, sure, I can help beginners in online business and I can help beginners in memberships, but I don't probably work as well with people who are beginners in business 100%, who have not done anything. And I'm not the first person they need to learn from, because I do not have, I think, the basics written down so close together. And so therefore I use language that sometimes would scare those people off, the ones that also feel like they're not going to be a quick study, because memberships are complex, right? They require funnels, they require launches, they require looking at your numbers. You have to be willing to jump into that world where you're analyzing some things and you are properly tracking and you're properly testing and experimenting and not expecting to just sort of have, or you don't have a fantasy about like the overnight sensation of, I've got such a great idea that it's just going to win. And so I write to the person who realizes that they're going to have to dig in and bring whatever they have to it with passion so that they can work on figuring out some of the micro details to make it all become profitable and clear. So that's my little push towards writing the copy, starting to flesh it out. I have lots of tools for this inside the Scaling Deep Society, lots of copywriting kits, lots of trainings on how to write sales pages and even like home pages, and also just even trying to understand your member journey a little bit so you can figure out which one is the one worth going all in on for your membership. And that is also what I do inside my VIP coaching sessions. So if you think you need help and you just want to like get this done fast, come check out my coaching package at scalingdeep.com/coaching and book a call with me so we can figure out if working with me is the next best step to getting your potentially recurring revenue, super flexible, super fun, super connected membership program going, because it's a really fulfilling thing to have. And I think that we are still heading more and more all the time towards memberships as being the way that people do businesses, the way that people connect, the way people learn, the way people grow. Nothing's changing in the future or anytime too soon. So thanks for listening and let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.